Good evening and welcome back. My name's Matthew McLaughlin.
And I'm Daniel Sander.
And I'm Garrett Kiesel.
And we have some notes for...
Parasite.
Yes, indeed we do. And we actually have our first ever guest. This is our friend, Mr. Garrett Kiesel. He is a voice actor. Tell the people a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I do voice acting work. I've been doing it for about 8 years now. You can hear me in work like Smite, Wasteland 3, Saga of Sins, and I most recently did an audiobook called In the Company of Killers by Alora Cook.
Very nice. Yeah. So yeah, he's a pretty cool dude. So anyway, we just watched Parasite here in the living room, and let's get into this. So for anybody who's new here, this is our podcast talking about movies, rating them, and giving them notes. What we would have done, different things to make the movie better. So let's start with
I
whatever.
just am trying to get past the tomahawk. It's like posted on your leg.
Yeah, it's the
just
perfect length. I'm like super comfy with this.
I was about to say, is it comfortable for you?
It's super comfy.
Okay,
It looks
good.
great.
It's perfect.
It looks great. I know Garrett's a little bit worried about it, but I mean, you've got the blunt end.
I mean,
towards
I
it,
was about to
so-
say, the sharp end's facing away from me, so I'm good. I'm fine.
Oh
All right,
my
now,
gosh.
okay,
Stop.
these are different now.
Stop. Yeah, so Parasite, and I believe so. We both had seen it. You'd seen it a few times. I'd only seen it
I
once.
saw it twice in theaters when it came out, which is very rare for me. Like, I rarely feel the need to go to a movie theater twice, but I think I liked it enough at the time where I was like, I need to go see this thing a second time.
And it still holds up even a third time?
I think so. Interestingly enough, I think I liked it a little less than the past couple times I saw it, but I think around the time I was in theaters, it was there's a lot of hype surrounding it, so it was getting really good reviews, and when I saw the trailer, I was very interested by the premise. But after now being separated from it for so many years, I still liked it.
Charms wearing off a little.
I mean, not
Charms, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, not like as much, but I mean, it was still like a really good movie. I still really enjoyed it. But I definitely have my little minute gripes and issues with it. But yeah, no, still good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, first time viewer?
This is my first time seeing it. When it came out, for whatever reason, I remember seeing the poster and thinking, like, this doesn't look good. I really thought that. I was like, they put the thing across the eyes to be different. And that's it. That's seriously as far as it went for me. Then I saw it won some Academy Awards, and I was like, yep, that's exactly what they did.
Never judge a book by its cover, dude. What the heck?
Well, to be honest, the problem with the Academy now is that anything that wins things, especially if you have the judgment like me, it's like, okay, yep, it must have sucked. It got all these awards, and it had the poster that, like, turned me off. Yep, it must have sucked. Now, I'm very happy to say that it did not... That was a good movie. That was a really good movie. Even from the opening scene, I talked a little bit about Mickey 17, about how the opening shot really got me and started making me ask questions. Same thing happened in Parasite. That opening shot of the windows, they're down in the basement, the guy's doing trash and all these other things, there's the socks hanging. It made me ask a lot of questions. So right from the beginning, they had a big hook for me because I was curious what the heck was going on. Now, I didn't know, for whatever reason, that it was a completely foreign film. We had it with the subtitles on. I didn't know that going in, so it wasn't bad by any stretch. I watched all of Squid Game like that and everything, and it works. But, yeah, it was a little bit interesting going into it not knowing that.
Is Squid Game South Korean too? Mm-hmm. Dang, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, they seem to have a growth in the last, 7 years, probably?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, it seems
I
like
don't know,
it.
because you said this was 2019.
2019.
Yeah, throwback. Yeah, the last time I had seen it was right after the Academy Awards for 2019-ish. So it was good. It was refreshing to see again. I mean, all the visual storytelling was always really good. The cinematography super fun. The characters are just a hoot. And I love dark comedies so much. And so having something that just is so, I don't know, just in that vein, it's fun. And it was fun to revisit it. And I liked it, I think, just as much as the first time I saw it. So, yeah. Lots of good things there.
For sure. Definitely.
Well, we oftentimes, unless anyone has anything else to say, we jump into just goods and bads. So, I don't know. Where do we want to start?
I think I always like for me personally, I like getting the things that we disliked the most out of the way.
Sure.
And then getting into the good stuff.
After you.
So
You said you
after
had
me.
some things, so I'm excited to hear
Oh,
what you have
yeah,
to
no,
say.
for sure. I mean, like I said, I feel like my gripes are very minute and very nitpicky because overall, as a whole, it's just a really good movie. It's a really good movie. But I think the main thing for me, gripe-wise, was like, things take a sudden turn very unexpectedly with the whole, basement and everything, and things just kind of deteriorate more and more, kind of like into madness. But for me, I think it really goes with like the character's motivations, especially the father's motivations at the end. I think just things really go off the rail super quick in a very unexpected way. And to me personally, it's more in the essence of shock value, I think, than anything else. That's just my personal opinion.
Dude, I'll back you up on that in a good way. Because first time watching it, I was on edge. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many ways that this whole scheme can go wrong. Mm-hmm. I was thinking the dating the 17-year-old, first off, yikes. And then just everything with it. The fact you could slip up and accidentally call somebody dad or mom and then have to try to fix that and leave a lingering impression. I didn't expect the way that it happened to be the way that it would fall apart. So I think, yeah, shock value for sure. But I think it worked because I was already thinking about that. It made me ask questions about like, how is this going to fall apart? Because there's no way this is going to work long term.
Right.
So then when it happened, it was like, holy crap. Yeah. That's how it happens?
Right. And I think like, well, what I noticed watching it for a third time is that to me, like the dad's mental state seemingly just deteriorates after the whole big rainstorm happens and they go back to their home and they find their entire, below level, house, apartment just completely flooded. And like from that point when they're in the shelter in the gym, like he has that whole monologue that he's talking about, how like never plan for anything because then essentially you're never going to be disappointed. Like his character to me does a complete 180.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
That's a really, really good point. Yeah, he might be the only one that kind of didn't make sense to me.
Right, that's kind of what I'm alluding to.
If he had no plan, why would he be that bothered about the weather? He didn't exactly love his old place. He was ashamed of how it made him smell. That's a very defining character moment.
You're right. Yeah, definitely.
Later in the movie.
Definitely.
So I don't think he was that proud. And then all of a sudden, he does have pride in it, and he's ashamed of what happened and everything, to the point where when the rich guy smells him,
makes comments
again,
about, yeah, exactly, yeah,
that it like flips him 180.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely a good note. The fact that his flip was kind of sudden.
It was sudden to me.
And it didn't really go along with his monologue. Because if he didn't have plans and he wasn't worried about things, then how come those things pissed him off? You know?
Yeah.
Or is that saying that he was lying during his monologue?
I personally don't think so.
Yeah, he was telling the truth there.
No, I mean, I think he was dead serious in that thing.
Then why did he kill the guy?
That's fantastic. And that's kind of what I mean, is that like everything that happens at the end of the movie, he's just at like this breaking point, essentially, that to me kind of comes out of nowhere. And I'm interested to your thoughts on this as well, Daniel. But like, it's just so unexpected. And it's like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I'm saying for like shock value, just for the sake of shock value.
Yeah.
So
I guess it kind of feels like that. If he hadn't done his monologue, I think I could defend it, because he had a bunch of businesses that they tried to start. They all failed. All of his plans went to crap. They all didn't work. So now he has the philosophy of not having a plan. So I can see why then him being in this lowly state, he's just in a state of, I'm going to just try to exist and hope that things go the way that they can, as good as they can, without putting in much effort. And he is secretly ashamed that he can't make anything happen. And he's ashamed that his family has to live a particular way. And even though things are good in the movie, I think it's because he is very, very ashamed that that's how they had to make it happen, that he couldn't do it in a normal way. And then, Bobo. Cat scratch. So I think that he's secretly ashamed, and we don't see that. We get a little bit of telling of it. And that's a reasonable thing, I think. so that when somebody starts commenting about how he smells, and it's so identifiable that even though he's a good man, he's a good driver, all of that stuff, he can't shake off the filth of his own failure. And I think that's what gets to him. So I
I
think
like that take a lot.
it might be the straw that broke the camel's back.
Well, especially after his whole entire, apartment is completely flooded. So it's like,
So even though he might not be that proud of it, it's like what he has been able to make now is gone. The
Yeah.
little that he had.
that is yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Your take on it? I'm very curious.
Don't need to say anything because that's exactly what I was gonna say. So yeah,
really?
yeah,
Okay.
that's what I got from it too. I mean, he had all the failed business ventures, and I wouldn't really even say the weight of his own family. I feel like he was definitely a monkey in the rest of the circus, and he didn't really have the need to take care of his kids or anything. So yeah, at the end of the day, that's kind of what I got too, where he felt like he had to get back into it when he was getting back to driving a car and learning what he was doing and trying to
Things were so
get back into
good.
the flow.
Things were so
Exactly.
good all of a sudden again. So
Exactly.
yeah. Okay.
And just having that people looking over him at any given time, looking down on him at any given time, it was kind of the stench of his own failure personified.
Interesting.
That was realized fully at the end when he just
Decided
tired of
to,
it.
yeah, just over it.
I'm not going to lie. I do have to work pretty hard to think about it, though. It's not super obvious why he did it. So I can see the shock values being reasoned. Because I'm not going to lie. Sitting in my seat, that was my gut reaction. Yeah. I was like, wait, what? Why did he do that?
Yeah.
I get it. Like, he got smelled again, and that sucks because that's a
It was a
thing
very
that he
triggering,
hates.
very triggering thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that was it. It did feel like shock value. So I guess in that one, if there was a note with that, it's that it should have been more. There could have been more details on it. Let him like really get pissed off one time before.
Yeah, because I feel like my issue. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But I feel like my issue is that there's like minute buildup to that. Like to me, very very minute buildup until he reaches that breaking point.
Yeah,
Of
definitely.
like
Yeah, what's the biggest thing? It's like he's sitting in his car and he like sniffs again because the wife smells it.
Yeah,
but that's it. That doesn't cause him to have any lash out. That doesn't cause any like him punching a wall in secret or like clenching a fist even or something like that. I guess that's all we would have needed. A clenching of a fist, a punching a wall
to show
in
that it's
secret.
like. I mean, you can tell that it's bothering them. I think it's showing in his like facial expressions for sure.
But enough to make the jump to kill somebody.
Yeah, then that's kind of what I'm alluding to. That's what I'm talking about. So
That's a super
it just
fair note.
Yeah, just seems a bit. I don't know, like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So
I like that because it was building a house of cards the entire movie, and then the entire house of cards just fell down. And it was chaos, and you couldn't predict it. I think if he punched a wall, you'd predict that bigger
Right,
things.
but
were
it
gonna
wasn't
happen.
him killing it that all made it fall down. It was the guy coming out of the basement and everything that then stabbed his daughter, and then he had to put his daughter's life above the care of the son that he's supposed to be taking care of. That's where the House of Cards fell, was when his daughter got stabbed. You know? So I
Right.
think, yeah.
Right, but I mean, he also didn't have to go and stab the dad at the end of the day.
true.
He didn't have to. That was entirely his choice. It wasn't that the dad actually really did anything to him. He chose to go and stab the dad. So not to say that's when the House of Cards fell or didn't fall. I mean, certainly it fell earlier, but it was all part of the chaos. And it was all part of the
like,
moment.
and I feel like I get where you're going with it, where it's like as soon as his daughter gets stabbed, it's like there's no going back from that. Like he's losing essentially everything. Everything's so good for him at that moment, and all of a sudden his daughter gets stabbed brutally. He doesn't even know his son, has a brutal head trauma from the success rock. What's it called?
I don't know. That rock was weird.
Yeah, but
The omen of success or
yeah.
whatever.
So like, yeah, you make a good point about the House of Cards like crumbling, and I think once the daughter gets, but even then though, I'm still like kind of like just the motivation to turn around and stab the CEO. It's just what else does he have to lose? I guess because
Right.
everything's already kind of
I mean, true,
going to
but
crap.
fair. That's fair. I think that's what I, watching, appreciated so much about this movie was that it was a very intentional, slow burn character development for all four of them. I felt like all four of them as characters were, and heck, the family they were living
family
with
dynamics
were
on
developed very,
so
very
good.
well
So
in this
good.
nice growing pace as, a family of con artists, but then you were also learning so much about each one of them that I couldn't have told you who the main character was. Like, as if I just think about the movie in general, it was the family unit.
Well, they
maybe.
all kind of have their own moments.
They did.
So-
They did. And that's kind of why I enjoyed the father's arc especially, is that I think of all of the people you maybe not relate to, but you want to even know more about, it's his arc. And the fact that he lashes out so severely is so against his type at the end of the day.
Right.
Where you have the more rambunctious kids, you have the mother who's much more outspoken about what she's thinking and feeling, and he's a lot more stoic, and he's building and bottling and taking in these failures and going along with his kids' plans and things like that. And then you see him rapidly deteriorate when the basement scene happens, when he's caught, trying to deal with his lack of plan, or his lack of his son's plan, I guess.
Right.
And it just goes way downhill to the point where he suddenly kills someone. And I can see where the shock value part comes out, but I think that it's warranted for this. I mean, they've built these characters so well up until then that seeing him lash out like that is jarring. I mean, the fact that you don't see blood in this movie until like the last 15 minutes of it, I think speaks to that. It speaks to the fact that it was a slow, intentional burn towards just chaos and being on the edge of your seat.
It is an edge of your seat movie.
And even, watching it the second time, I didn't remember a lot of the end, and it still was just jarringly crazy.
It all collapses so fast.
It does. And so I love that it cascades as quickly as it does. I think that in a movie that so intentionally builds on the front end, it deserves the collapse chaotically and quickly at the end.
Right. And I think that's what it is for me. It was just the dad's unexpected, I don't know, again, to me, unexpected, just lashing out, where it was like, wow, this, I don't know, it just catches you off guard.
Since it's so unexpected, do you think it was like the director saying, all of these movies, you can see what's going to happen. We got to make this be kind of a sudden thing. Do you think it's like that far?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know if I could tell you. So,
On a different topic, I have a question. Sure. Why did the son go into the basement alone with The Rock?
I think that, that's a really good question.
Probably just straight up to protect himself against whatever he'd find, confirm they're tied up, confirm they're...
So then the question is,
Probably
why did he
not
go
dead.
down alone?
Right.
If he's the plan guy and he's the smart one who's made all this happen and everything, why did he go down
and before
alone with The Rock?
that happens, once the dad has that monologue in the gym, the dad turns to him, I think, right? And he's like, why are you clinging to that thing? And he's like, it's clinging to me.
Right.
So
when he does say...
Almost like he's being called to...
Yeah, and I think he wants to secure this position, like really lock this down. Because remember, he's struggling internally with a lot of stuff that they don't really like get to, I think, until like the end of the movie, especially with the conversation during the party, when the party's happening with him and the daughter that he's tutoring, where he's like, do you really think I fit in here? So, and she thinks that, he does. So, like, to me, seeing that, I'm thinking like, oh, in his mind, he thinks that he needs to, because again, this is going back to the rock that, his friend gives him that is supposed to bring a lot of wealth and success. And you can tell that's very, very important to this family. So with it being, as heavy and, I guess you could use it as a weapon. So...
Do you think with what he was saying about how I'm going to fix this, Dad, I'm going to fix everything, so is that him basically promising that he was going to take care of the problem in the basement? So he was going down there to kill them?
I think so.
I think that's great implication. Like, what I mean by the director did such a good job of implying that we're asking questions about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really well done.
Where he's like, I'm going to,
That would explain, too, why when he dropped it, he was like, oh, crap, he dropped it. Because if you were bringing it to them, let's say on the flip side, let's say that he was going down for good faith or something, you wouldn't be too upset about dropping it.
Right.
Here's the success for you guys. I want you to be successful too.
It's really important to him. The Rock's very important to him, and to him dropping it, it's him almost like, in a way, fumbling the bag. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's my take on it.
Can we
for
also
sure.
talk about the freaking guy in the basement?
The
casting on that?
He's a great actor, man.
Oh my!
Yeah, he's
so creepy.
Very creepy. Extremely so.
So creepy.
Yeah.
That scene where the kid had his freaking like saw him just poke up out from the basement.
Horror, like nightmare stuff.
That was
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah.
It was so good, especially because we know it's real. Like, it's not a flashback to some random ghoul or something that the kid sees and, like, oh, kids see things or whatever. We know he's real. And the kid freaking saw him poke up all creepy like.
Yeah.
It caused him to have a seizure. Oh, God, that was good. That was so good.
Yeah, the facial expressions and everything. Like, yeah, it was good stuff.
One thing I didn't quite understand with the basement guy, like I could totally get behind her having the husband down in the basement and leeching off this family, same as all these people, and the, you know, in a way, poor people leeching off of rich people and taking advantage of them in this scenario. But I didn't understand the buttons and just generally why they were there at all. Like even if you're taking it at face value from like this is essentially a bomb shelter, were the buttons always intended to be Morse code?
That, honestly, I think it is literally that.
And,
I
like,
really think it's
they were-
literally just that.
They were clearly, you know, story-driven buttons, but like, why were they there to start with? Yeah.
Yeah, and then
So-
that begs the question: if you're going to build a bomb, well, I guess no, it wasn't for. They did not say that it was for bombs and stuff. They said it
Well,
was
they said
for
it was case North Korea
predators.
attacks or for
Right, like that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then it might be for bombs and stuff. And if that's the
sure
case,
deep enough for it. Gosh.
then you're assuming that the house is going to be gone. So your Morse code little light is not going to be there.
Well, yeah, it's just yeah, and then why the husband didn't realize that? I mean, they said the sensors, so I guess the wife kind of addressed. Oh, he thinks they're sensor driven, and that one's wigging out. But yeah, why the
for
buttons
4
were there?
years.
Yeah.
It's wigging out for 4 years.
Yeah.
You got this rich ass CEO, and they never fix it.
Never,
for
never
4 years.
like notice or anything.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Depending on how often it's happening.
But,
I
I mean, the
suppose.
rest, like, fine. The husband in the basement, whatever. But like, yeah, the buttons. I was like,
Thrown up by the buttons. Okay.
I don't know why to begin with. Why? I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, because I could definitely see some sort of communication from the bunker to the outside world.
Yeah.
But yeah, a fixture in the house that gets flickered by that, yeah, that one was a little bit weird. If it was one on the outside, I might have even understood it more.
Right.
Because then it's like one that people would know to go look for, or you could do without somebody seeing in your house. So if a creditor, let's say it was for that purpose, that a
Yeah.
creditor comes through, because that's what they said.
Yeah.
That if you're flickering it on the outside, that's a way to communicate with one of your associates and they would know to look for it. But the inside, that would raise some suspicion.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. At the end of the day, I thought it was used obviously very well. I mean, it came completely full circle. It was very relevant. But at first glance, I'm like, so he's like pushing the buttons, and when the guy walks up the stairs and he knows, he's like, shh, he's there. Like,
I also love
Okay.
that the concrete stairs creak.
yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking about
I
that
don't
during
think
the movie.
I don't think I noticed that, if I'm
They were
being
down
honest.
like 4 stories too, and he just had like the stairs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did creak. Yeah, it was pretty
I
funny.
don't think I noticed that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good one. It's so well explained. It's so entertaining. I can forgive all of those. For sure. I can forgive all of those. Man, is there one that I can't forgive? What shocked me the most about this movie was just how well thought out it was. The arcs for everything. The fact that the rain, like that felt like normal rain. It just felt like normal rain. But then it drove the plot consistently, scene after scene after scene. It was like, man, this rain is screwing everything up.
Yeah.
The fact that it was just normal and they're, saying the lightning, like when the guy mentions God, and it's like, that's good timing. They're joking about it. It's raining. It's good.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that's what drives the family home.
Drives the
real
plot.
quick.
Yeah.
And then once that whole kerfuffles through, you see them and they're sad in the rain, getting all wet and everything. And then it turns out this is a terrible rain and it's flooding their house, and that drives it further. It's like, never have I seen weather used so well. It was so good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good note. That's a good note. Yeah. It wasn't like, creepy just for the sake of being creepy at that moment.
Yeah, totally. The fact
It
that
danced with a lot of different genres well. That
does.
being
Oh
creepy,
my
being
Oh
funny,
my God.
being a
it's
great
so
drama.
you mentioned like it being a dark comedy. Like it is so unexpectedly funny. Like in such a good way. So it's like the amount of times I like legitimately like belly laughed throughout this movie it's just very surprising. It just kind of throws you off, but in a really good way. So yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember one. What was can you remember a really good one?
That you belly laughed in?
Yeah.
Put me on the spot?
Yeah.
Come on, man. You can't
know
do that to me. I don't know. Just the entire, like, Until things kind of go downhill, I mean, the movie just in general is just really funny. And certain like dialogues and the way the characters like just act and interact, like in general, like even like subtly, is just really good. So, yeah.
Well, and it's not one of those movies where it's funny because it's weird and then the movie like penalizes you for laughing. Like it almost doesn't take it takes the scene so seriously itself, although it's absurd on its face, that you're laughing, you're like, I don't know if I should be laughing.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, maybe you weren't. But this one is like, no, it's funny and it's trying to be funny.
Oh yeah, like when the girl, the daughter, she's drinking tequila or whatever it
And
is.
she's
gets
just
so drunk.
and she's downing it the entire time in the background.
Yeah, and she's just downing like crazy, and then she starts snacking on something. We all assume it's candy because it looks like candy, and then she drops a line that this is dog food, and everybody just cracks up.
Yeah.
And like 10 minutes later, or like 3 minutes later in the movie, they're like, our entire world is collapsing. The family's coming home. They're going to find us out. It was crazy how fast it can go from it, but it's sincere in everything that it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because even one of the examples I was thinking, I was like, what's a movie that's a prime example of this? Did you ever see Hereditary? No?
I have not.
So it's a horror movie. Ari Aster, he did like Midsummer and stuff like that. Great horror director, but he does a lot of like absurdly weird movies to where his level of horror is just like, it's just absurd. It's weird. And so you find yourself like giggling through his movies sometimes because you're like, this is so weird. It's actually kind of comical. And I don't think it ever intends to be. Like Hereditary is kind of a prime example. Like I think the main woman like walks into a room and there's like a guy that's randomly on fire. And you just look at it, you're like, what is happening right now? And yeah, I mean, the whole thing is kind of a descent to madness thing. And in this case, maybe not so much. But movies like that, I guess, where they're trying so hard to be horrors and hit you with things like shock value and things that are just uncanny and weird as part of the horror genre that just miss so heavily, and you end up laughing your way through it. Like, this is just so weird. But this one having elements of horror that are executed super well, the color palette being anything but regular. Like, you've got really crazy, moody basements, really beautiful houses and the interiors and everything. And so it navigates you through all these different genres so well and interlaces comedy in there to where it's not obnoxious and not cheap, that it's actually developing the family dynamic and it's actually developing the situation. And then nice bits of drama too, where things are heavy and things are
serious.
the stakes are high.
Yeah.
And you feel on the edge of your seat. And you feel the stakes. So yeah, it's just great, such a great blend.
I would describe this movie as intentional. Even to the small details from a filmmaking perspective of specific lenses and using transitions, like fun transitions, if you will. So there's a scene in the movie where basically we've known this family and everything, and he's going to be the tutor, and he's walked into he's right outside the gate. And it's when he first goes through the door, and then it's a lens change. And you can see it's a wider angle. The edges are slightly blurred and everything. And it's to show like entering a new world. He actually uses a different lens in that shot to show off the feeling that the character's experiencing walking into this completely different world, this wealth, this beauty that's in there. And he uses it through a freaking lens. It's so good.
You see, I don't mess around with cameras, so I'm not going to notice things like that. It's amazing that you even noticed that. Like, now I legit want to go back and watch it just for that.
Yeah, it's like it's slightly fisheye. It's just a little touch, and it was so well done. The fact also, too, that he planned it out so well that he starts that shot in the darkness of the door itself before they reveal to the brighter stairs and the greenery, so that the transition between lenses isn't as shocking. It's so well done. The other detail is in the transitions. You know, we all know Star Wars for its wipe transitions, and that's a characteristic of Star Wars, so it works. A lot of other movies will try to do a fun transition, a fancy transition or whatever, and it just kind of takes you out. It's like, what was that?
Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. In this one, you guys remember when it's flooding
I was
and the water
just about to mention that one.
and the water starts going up, and that brings in the next shot from the flood.
And
Oh my
and it goes like to
gosh.
like the above shot about
never
everything
seen
flooding.
that
So
before.
good, so good.
So well done. It's a fun, interesting transition that has to do with the story and shows that their life is flooding. Their life is being consumed at the moment. There's so many depth, there's so many details that add to the story.
Yeah.
Shocking. Intentionality is what this movie provided. It was shocking. It was so good. Yeah, it was beautiful. How it was shot was gorgeous too.
Well, and I think that speaks to, I mean, you spoke a lot about cinematography, but even, I mean, it's a part of cinematography. I think that's what is so captivating to me about this one is the lighting too. And the intentionality showing when they're down in these, especially in their house, like it's gross. It's nasty. You come out into the street and granted it's vibrant, but it's cluttered and it's...
I mean, you have the guy taking a piss,
You
know,
do. You
who's just right
definitely
outside
do.
their window.
You definitely do. But yeah, when you get into the house, there's a lot of natural lighting, a lot of warm hues, a lot of things that are very welcoming and huggable and things like that. And only when the plot starts to turn a little bit sour is that perverted a little bit. So yeah, it is entirely an intentional movie, which is how every movie should be shot, with immense attention between the director and the DP, making sure that every shot informs the story and where it's moving and how it's moving, the struggle between the classes in this case. So it's showing the dark to the light. It's so cool.
You want to know another little detail that I absolutely loved? And for everybody out there, this is one that you actually can relate to. So everybody's used their phones to film something slow motion. And when you play it back, if there's a light in the background, you'll notice that it flickers. And the reason that happens is because cameras film at a frame rate. The slower you go, the faster the frame rate is. And LED lights, and most lights in general, also go, they repeat the flashing.
AC current, yeah.
Yeah. So when your frame rate doesn't line up perfectly with your lights, you get that flashing effect. The director was so smart that when he shot this and he was on the freaking phone, that he incorporated that into the street lights when the guys were being splashing with the water and everything. Yeah. Such a small detail. You can tell it definitely wasn't shot on a phone, obviously, but he included that little detail to make sure that it looked more like phone footage, at least felt like it. So freaking smart.
Although the dynamic range was still too good.
Yeah, exactly. It still looked
they
like
were
a
backlit
movie.
and they were well lit and they totally.
Yeah,
that was a cool shot.
Oh, it was so good. And like the joy that showed too. They were throwing buckets of water and some dude pissing outside their yard, outside their window while they're trying to celebrate from earning some money.
Yeah, it's just so interesting how the movie goes from, kind of down in their luck to finally having some success, like, and feeling good as a family and that family dynamic, to things just going to complete and utter rock bottom. So
absolutely,
yeah.
Well, so we certainly merged right into the good stuff. There was one thing I would have loved to have gotten a little bit more, which was the motivation other than literally just struggling, because we got the pizza box building. So for the family itself, why everyone was so content to just start scamming the crap out of people. The pizza box thing, it obviously showed they were all struggling collectively, but the minute the son meets with his college friend, I'm not exactly sure who that guy was, and he found out about this sweet deal, they were all just so keen to hop on the bandwagon. And so there didn't really ever at any point with the family appear to have a moral compass, like ever. They were just like, sweet, let's just jump on the money.
Yeah, it's kind
of. And so I'd be curious to know kind of what you guys think on there, if that just is solely to do with like screw rich people, or if that has to do, if there was anything else in the movie that I missed that was them actually grappling with that, or maybe that's just totally, they're just good to scam people. They're just con artists. Or like how they got to be that way even, how they got to be so good at scamming people. Because it was a well-oiled machine through the most of the movie.
I was going to touch on that too, because even from the get-go at the very beginning of the movie, it just seems like they're very opportunistic and willing to, try to cash in on their next, opportunity work-wise.
Yeah, eat or be eaten.
Yeah, so I agree with you. Where it was like, to me, it kind of seemed like they've been trying. You mentioned the whole like well-oiled machine thing, because they're so like unbelievably natural at it. Like they're just all like super in sync when it comes to it. So to me, because it seems like they've been kind of down on their luck for a while. That's how it seems to be at the beginning of the movie. Definitely. And everything.
Yeah.
So they're just trying to do what they can just to get by. So.
Yeah, I would say the length of time that they've been doing this, the fact that they have to do everything from all these failed businesses that they've tried to make happen to trying to make pizza boxes, and that's something that they can do. Plus, you can see when they do the pizza boxes and they're about to get that cut from their already kind of crap pay, that they're right on it.
They're super on it. Like they're immediately on the worker girl, being like, just fire the other dude. Just
hire the other dude. We can get a job.
On. Yeah.
They are literally always trying to get a way to get money, to get somebody that they love and their family into that position for the goodness of the family. Yeah. So it's something that you kind of have to accept, but the fact that it's just so natural for them, I think worked for me. But yeah, it's definitely more of like you just kind of have to accept that's who they are.
Yeah, and I forgot that they mentioned the whole like there was somewhere about in there about like a cake business, how they had like a failed cake business.
Yeah,
and then that comes up later on throughout the movie through another lens of another character.
Yeah,
it's mentioned again
in the basement.
Yeah, so yeah, that was I also found that very interesting as well.
So all that to say, that leads to a question. In your guys' opinions, at the end of the movie, who was the good guy and who was the bad guy?
Oh gosh, man.
Well, the rich people were good guys. They didn't do anything wrong. I'm just going to go with that.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. So, but also...
You're not supposed to agree. This is supposed to be a discussion. Well, I mean, you could agree. All right.
But at the same time, I don't think the family they're necessarily the bad guys either.
That's exactly where I am and why I wanted to ask that previous question was that this is a very difficult movie to figure out who you're actually rooting for because you want to root for people coming up and pulling themselves up. I mean, although maybe not in the most genuine of ways where they're scamming people that, to get out of the pits, but you root for them because you grow to hate the rich people. And I mean, I think that's something that all of us in some way can relate to in our lives, where we have kind of this disdain for people who are, successful above us, and especially monetarily successful. Maybe not. But at the end of the day, it really, really blurs the line because you have
it's desperate family.
You have the desperate family versus this. They even mentioned in the movie the kind of ignorant, this rich family, and yet you're going through things with their son and their daughter, and you're seeing a little bit of humanity in their kids. And then how all of their affluence kind of bleeds into the rest of the family being impacted.
Right.
And so, yeah, at the end of the movie, I mean, it's interesting you say the rich people, because true, on paper, you're right. They didn't do anything. Maybe they worked their way up to it. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. But it's interesting because it's almost an anti-hero underdog story for this family coming up through so much stuff. And scamming into this rich family, and you're rooting for them, whether or not you agree with them. I mean, I'm pretty sure we were all rooting for them at one point.
Hot take: I wasn't rooting for them.
Really?
I was not rooting for them.
This is what you're looking for.
This is what I was looking for. Yes.
It was a great. What I really enjoyed about seeing this was the flip flop between their looks. I really enjoyed seeing these guys who were down in the dumps, who had this crazy stuff happen to them, bad luck. Bad clothes, whatever, and then just they can flip it on. They can get a decent suit. They can put makeup on, do their hair, whatever, and bam, you're trustworthy. So it made me question, why do you trust people? It brought up those questions to me, but I was not rooting for them. I really wasn't.
Well, they did a lot of grimy things.
They did,
and
exactly.
They got people who were previously working for the family fired.
Yeah, if you're going to really make the case that, let's say, the rich guy letting his driver go because he found panties in the back and just made that assumption. First off, does anybody else want some dude that they hired fucking in the back of their car? Anybody?
I did. Okay, I was gonna say I didn't ask beforehand if we were keeping doing like PG-13 or R.
That's the first time we cussed on this, actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Wow.
That's the first F-bomb.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
That's the first F-bomb.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. You got to get out of the way.
Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to talk into this. Sorry. Congratulations, Chris Pratt. First F-bomb.
But yeah, I don't think anybody's wanting that. He pays the guy to drive his car, not to do those things in the back of it.
And he seems like an innocent, young guy who's just trying to, make his money.
If you're going to make the case that the rich dude is a bad guy for making the assumption, therefore letting him go, then how can you be on the side of the family that made that happen? They're worse. They planted the thing to make the driver look like he did that. So again, the rich guy, yeah, he probably should have talked to him or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you're paying somebody good money to do a good service and you find that stuff out, again, he should have talked to them. I'll agree on that. What are you going to do? Especially something like that. That does require respect. It's something that you own and you trust somebody to take care of it, all these different things. Yeah, so I was not rooting for the family at all. I really wasn't.
That's completely fair. And yeah, I think there's definitely like a line for me.
Maybe I'm like that guy. Everything's good unless you cross that line.
Yeah.
I mean, no. So, and that's one thing I was thinking too is I generally was probably rooting for the up and comers mostly because I don't know, maybe I'm sadistic like that, but I was entertained by it mostly, and so I was like, I want to see where they take it next. But the the rich people obviously didn't merit any of it, and I think that in this they weren't even painted in the light that a lot of movies like this paint rich people.
I completely agree
where
with
they're
that.
cocksured and they are absolute
Arrogance and
asshole
snobby.
arrogance.
Yeah.
And so in these ones, they were actually, I mean, outside of being maybe a little bit ignorant of what was going on, particularly the wife, and pretty eager to throw money to solve problems and things very eager to throw money to solve problems. But the husband was very much, you saw his true character demonstrated time and time again. I mean, he was a family man and he was definitely a businessman. And he had, had that great conversation in the car about crossing lines.
Just about to mention that.
Yeah, and so you knew where he stood pretty clearly, which I think made that line in a way a little bit easier for this movie than you get in some like this, where it's the Robin Hood style trying to screw over the rich people because they're rich. And so I think that's kind of why this movie tends to be such a good class discussion is, are people bad just because they're rich? And that's, I think, kind of why this movie was as well and still is as pivotal as it is are people bad just because they're rich? Clearly it didn't show here. Clearly they're just fine.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no.
Yeah.
Something I find really funny is that at the very beginning of the movie when the Sung's friends like having that conversation with him to like go and do the tutoring is that he describes the rich mother/wife as being very simple.
Yeah.
Like doesn't just outright say like she's kind of a little he just describes her as simple, then it just kind of shows how easily she is to be kind of manipulated.
Yep.
So yeah, it was kind of it was funny.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
And yet he was so eager to talk down on his classmates and stuff too, and those dogs and stuff like that, for how they treat. Yeah. So it's interesting those dynamics and how they come out like that, because they talked about it later in the movie too. It was maybe it was the husband and wife for being like, yeah, she's super gullible or something like that. Yeah. And just the perceived difference as well.
You just reminded me that not even the son is redeemable. Why did he go there? Why was he given this opportunity? Because the guy wanted to keep her safe, keep her basically his, which that's also arguable whether or not you should even do that.
Yeah, well, he's going to study abroad.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like grooming a little bit, whatever.
Wait,
But
what'd you say?
I said literally. Oh, I guess not the friend. Sorry.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, the comes study abroad. Sorry. Continue.
Wow.
Okay. We can. Okay.
Would you like to explain that joke to the audience?
We're gonna.
The guy goes. The other guy leaves. The guy goes
to study abroad.
Yeah. We didn't have to, but okay.
All right. Continue. I'll just leave.
No, don't do that. I was gonna touch on something.
I said that he was irredeemable, even the son.
Oh, the son. Yeah. Just from the way he just. Well, actually, elaborate on that.
Yeah, because I was saying that he was given an opportunity to do something, and he did the exact opposite on purpose.
Without a second thought.
Without a second thought. He was like, he was like
hey, that
going
girl's mine.
and
Okay,
moving
yeah,
in
yeah,
the cute
yeah,
girl
yeah,
likes
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do what he was gonna do.
Right. No,
Yeah, he
you're
literally
right.
he used his
Yeah.
friend's
No,
line
you're
and
right.
gave him the opportunity
No,
in the
you're
first
right.
place.
100%.
So yeah,
Well,
And
I'm
it
kind of
happened so
sad.
fast. It happened so quickly too.
Very
So,
quickly. Yeah. To the point where even as a viewer, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, he's stealing her girl or his girl. But I was a little sad that he lived. I thought when the trial was happening, he's like, yeah, and he just, major head trauma. I'm like, honestly, I think it would have been more tragic if he died and the mom was like the one left with the trauma of almost being killed herself and seeing her family die. But I guess he had to live for the sake of the dad's arc.
Yeah.
Although, damn, those were long Morse code messages.
Okay, I was gonna say
He was doing this narration. I'm like, is this all in Morse code?
Okay, I was thinking the same thing, and because I didn't remember. My memory of that movie ended after all the sadistic, crazy stuff went down. I don't remember the aftermath, like the aftermath scenes, literally at all. Mm-hmm. So it was like I was seeing that again for the first time. I was like, wow, this is like insanely long.
Yeah. It did kind of just keep going. It felt a little bit. Have you guys ever seen Psycho? Oh,
I have not.
Come on, y'all. The movie goes down.
Like the original?
Yeah,
I've
Alfred Hitchcock.
never seen the
The
original.
movie goes down, and then there's a piece at the end that's super controversial that I won't like spoil anything, but it is essentially describes everything. It's people getting interrogated and I don't know, cop or something explaining everything, and you're like, and then the movie ends. And you're like, why? Like, you just killed all the mystery. You just killed all of the thoughts that I was having myself, and you just like explained them to me. You're like, ugh. And this wasn't quite that bad, but it felt a little bit like that, where all of this stuff went down, and I almost wonder if it would have been better if the dad disappeared, because it would have shown that, you know, here's another thing where maybe he, you know, it was a plan that fell through and he just fled. And he just dipped, and it shows his true character at the end.
And it would have been the same because I don't know if you guys remember, it was before the family comes home during the rainstorm when they're all like having their, you know, big happy family get together, you know, eating all the stuff and drinking all the stuff where, you know, he like, and I guess this goes back to your point of like, this plays into the dad's insecurities maybe a little bit. Because even though at the time it may seem like he's coming across of like joking with his family, I don't know. Because there's that point where the wife calls him out and calls him a cockroach.
Oh yeah.
Where if things go bad, if things go wrong, you're gonna be the first one to run
away from the light. Yeah.
So that kind
which is why I kind of wish the epilogue didn't exist.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. So and it just will show him retreating. So. So I found that very interesting too, and it was like, oh man, he did really run away. So, yeah.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, I think it's interesting that he actually didn't buy the house.
You mean like the flash forward scene didn't buy the house?
Yeah. That was a dream sequence.
Right.
Yeah, that was a dream sequence that he showed what he wanted to do, but then it flashed back right at the end just to him thinking about it.
Right.
So yeah, he just didn't end up buying the house yet. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really, really good.
Is that what you saw it as?
What am I missing here? I saw the flash forward dream sequence through his dad's narration, which I guess was maybe his narration then further of him dreaming about being rich to get his dad out essentially in the most direct way possible. What am I missing?
I think we're on the same page.
What do you mean?
That he didn't end up buying the house yet.
Yeah, no.
Okay, cool. So we're all on the same page then. Because it played out somehow that you could have seen it as that, and it was just
The placement of it's very weird.
Yeah.
To me.
And then it brings down from the socks to see that he's just like...
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we are okay. I was
No,
like, wait, what did I miss?
Sorry.
I was like, I thought I got the flash forward too.
Yeah, I'm sure that there were people out here who saw the movie and thought that actually went through.
And they come
because
and
they're
they
used to
hug
bank robbery scenes where they talk through it and then it's done.
Right.
You know.
Right. Which I kind of dig that as a storytelling method.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it's different. So yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that it didn't happen like that it's still open-ended, that this could happen, but we don't know if it's going to happen.
This is what he's striving towards, but who knows?
Yeah. Isn't it funny? It'd be like, if you're going with this as a kill the rich movie, if you will, that the possible dream of redemption in this movie is to become the very thing that you sought to destroy.
You sought to destroy.
Oh.
Isn't that funny?
Yep.
For anybody who's saying that people are evil just by being rich.
Yep. I was thinking the exact same thing.
The
Like,
ending
buddy,
is-
you learned nothing.
Yeah, the ending is literally just that you have to become rich to save your dad.
Yep.
Are you evil then? Is that evil and
I know.
this isn't?
That's what I mean. Yeah. Like this being great. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was a great roundabout ending with a little bit of an open-ended gesture to it. And yeah, at the end of the day, you're just like, I hate everybody. They all suck. At least that's what I thought. But yeah.
I think it's interesting that the name is not plural. I think that's interesting.
Oh, just singular Parasite.
Because it shows that this family unit was so strong that the family itself was the main character. The main character, and therefore the name of the movie as well. It's not Parasites. It's literally just Parasites.
Because they're one family unit. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They look out
One
for each other.
disease.
They get the advantage for each other. Nobody really goes against each other. There's conflict, but that's about as far as it goes.
Right. And I do love the way it all kind of plays out with the rich
Yeah.
family as they're like slowly but surely like conning them. It's just,
Yeah.
it's so good.
It was very
so
entertaining
good.
to watch. Again, not rooting, but entertaining. 100%.
Very entertaining. Yeah.
So in the arc of everything going on, did you expect the nanny stuff and then the husband stuff? What were you? I'm just curious, because I remember when I saw it the first time, I'm like, I expected her to come back and cause trouble, but then to like unearth a husband in the basement, I was like, whoa, for the original nanny when she came back.
Oh, I didn't expect her to come back at all. I didn't
Okay.
expect any of that. I was figuring that it was going to be more simple as how it all unraveled.
And it would just start naturally, like you had mentioned, the accidentally calling someone dad or something.
Yeah,
like
accidentally
that.
calling them dad, or like them getting drunk and creating the mess and all these different things. I was like, dude, they could just decide that the camping trip's over. Like, that's a natural thing that can happen.
And they were just home.
Yeah, they're just
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
Like, that is what happened, basically, you know.
But there was like notice, like, hey, we're going to be here in 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Which also, by the way, everything that like happened in the movie made sense for the movie.
It did.
Crazy to me.
Nothing was
'Cause
outlandish.
Nothing's outlandish. It all made sense. Every little plot development, the reason things happened, the reason like nobody saw him go through the garage and into the basement was because the nanny had cut the lines
Yep.
earlier so that she wasn't seen because she knows about all this stuff. It all makes sense, and that's so great.
good. It's so good.
So good.
Yeah.
Because it takes something that's contrived and makes it add to the plot instead of just kind of being there.
Well, and even the little boy like smelling that the family smells the
same.
same.
Yeah.
That he was definitely
Yeah.
his own little like version of a savant, but that he was enough of a character to motivate that, and that it wasn't a weird thing. Like, oh, she wears the same like nail polishes, and you're like, okay, but this is like, no, he smells the same as Jessica or whatever, and you're like, oh, that's a fair point.
Kids would notice something like
Kids
that
won't,
because
especially
something.
one
you know?
who's in her arms all the time while doing therapy, you know? So yeah, you're right. Little things like that just make so much sense. The rain being, I love that you brought that up. The rain being such a good motivator of the plot, that everything made sense. I mean, I love the detail of him taking the latch from the spiraling door, because then when he went to hide, it made total sense that only he knew where he hid it. That he wasn't like, just the fact that he noticed to take it out to keep them there, hid it, and then he only knew to come back and get it. I was like, it just is a bow. It's just a nice bow.
Yeah, for anybody looking and like they would have never found that and been
Exactly.
weirded out. Granted, it would be in the basement, so it wouldn't be that big a deal anyway. But
Right.
yeah,
But just
literally,
little details like that just make sense. Mm-hmm. And they just work.
I loved that it's so gross when you think about it. But the fact that when they start going down the basement, the walls are just concrete. They're pretty normal. And the deeper you go, the grimier it is from just like breath coming out from somebody living down there. It starts to leach up the walls slowly over the 4 years that they had been down there, that he had been down there. It's such a small detail that it like wasn't grimy all the way down, but it was grimy as you went deeper. It's just, such little details.
Same thing, different scenario. When they were running away from the house, they had just escaped from under the table, and they were coming down kind of into their main area, and the camera panned down. You had this really crazy blue, really crazy orange, and power lines, depth of power lines. They were way over there, and they were coming down, and it just was all of this garbage in the way. And then literally as you sunk down more and more, he was talking about the water being sewage and everything too, but it was just mounds of garbage, and the camera getting down to its level to where they created the foreground shots. And then of course their house being subterranean, the claustrophobia you feel in there too.
real.
The physical, literal layers between set design, just the color choice, color palette, the cinematography, and then of course the writing that just inspires the theme all the way up. It literally builds it all the way up of the class struggles going on here, and the vast difference between the two, of everything to transitions to the editing. It was there, start to finish, which is why it wins an Oscar. Yeah. I think it won for editing too. I think it won editing, best picture, and I don't know. It won 3, I think. IMDb.
Go to it. Yeah,
makes
it was
sense.
it was a real joy to see this again though, and it was cool to introduce you to a movie you haven't seen before.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah,
I'm
you had a
glad that-
lot of really good takes on it.
Thanks.
So yeah.
4 Oscars.
4 Oscars.
Directing,
There you go.
screenplay, best picture, and best international feature film. Okay, I was wrong. And it was nominated for production design and for editing.
Yeah.
So it deserved the noms, that's for sure.
Dumbest note possible, because it can't apply to this, is almost like I wish it was shot in English so that I didn't have to look at the subtitles. The cinematography was so good that I found myself annoyed that I had to look down instead of looking at the gorgeous shots. Dumb note, because
It's not a dumb note. It's important to you.
yeah, but it was so amazing how it was, you know? And they can't really change that unless they do a dub version.
Well,
and I don't want to listen to that.
I mean, we've seen at this
You
point
want to see the
now-
authentic performances. Yeah.
That's true. And they were good. Gosh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
Performances were great.
acting was so good.
The I think that's a cool thing, a good note for this director, because I think this, like, Mickey 17 was his second, maybe not second being director
But
ever,
like big.
but
kind
it was
of,
him breaking it third.
I think it was third.
What did he? Because
can't
this
remember.
Back
you
to
know,
IMDb, baby.
But I think the reason that it's important is that he's clearly breaking into the American market in an important way, to where he can now make
Snowpiercer.
Was it Snowpiercer?
Snowpiercer, Parasite, Mickey 17.
Okay. Yeah, and
Wow,
this being
pretty big gaps between all those movies. Snowpiercer was like what, 2011?
I think you're pretty darn close. It's
I'm
right
getting
in
there.
there.
I'm getting there. Hang on. 2013.
2013.
Yeah, really close, yeah.
Yeah, but everything else looks Korean made. So that being, I guess, Snowpiercer being kind of his break in, followed by this one being his massive, breaking into the industry, and then Mickey 17 being able to direct an actual Americanized film.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it's great strides.
He has
But
2.5 amazing movies under his belt.
Mm.
2.5.
I still have yet to
was
see
a
Mickey
wash.
17. So
whatever
I still
I
have yet
do.
to see it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's sorry, I didn't have a thought there. It's great.
Oh, you're good.
It's just a good movie.
No, I mean I was pleasantly surprised the first time I saw Parasite, which is like one of the reasons why I think I had to go see it again the second time, because I was like, what did I just witness?
It's such a good
It
way.
merits a
Like,
second
in
viewing.
such a good way.
Absolutely.
Where I was like, I didn't expect any of this.
Yeah.
So in like, I don't know, it's just the journey of the characters and how they get to where they get in the movie, and just how everything just deteriorates so quickly. It's just like how everything unfolds. It's like, what am I watching?
Yeah. I think to speak to your point a little bit more, the one thing I really admired about this one is it's hard to reach a lot of foreign film just because of the vast cultural difference. That you could be reading subtitles all the livelong day, and yet it just does not make sense. And you're just like, what? Seriously, what is happening? Like, I feel like I need someone here to explain to me the significance of what is actually happening.
Yeah.
And I think that this movie, part of the reason why it was so daunting to get into it to begin with, was that you're jumping into a completely different culture, that you're going to get in there and you're just going to be lost. But this one is far from it. I mean, even in the English translation that you're getting across the thing, it's completely understandable to a Western audience, through and through, from the themes to the everything else. I mean, the fact that I think one of the subtitles was, that's not the vibe I get from this guy, or something like that. Like, vibe was actually in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, amazing. They speak my language. But I was surprised by how reachable of a film it was, coming absolutely from South Korea, from cast and crew, writer, director, everything.
Right.
That it was entirely a film that I could get right into from a Western lens, which I admire greatly, because, I mean, we have some experience not necessarily understanding. We watched one a little while ago that was difficult to fathom, the one in Florida. Yeah.
The one we
I thought you
didn't
were-
film because we
Yeah.
couldn't talk about it.
Yeah. We watched, what was it called?
It's called Hero.
Hero.
Yeah.
And I think it was a good movie. I don't know, dude. It was such a weird movie. So if anyone out there has seen
I
Hero,
think it was a good movie. I don't know.
Hero,
was
2001 Chinese kung fu movie.
yeah. It was. I mean, fight scenes were great.
I
but
like
there were
remember
a
bits
ton
and
of them.
pieces like of that
Yeah,
movie.
because we
It
watched it, we'd
was
forgotten about it.
Trip.
It'd make a great music video.
It would. It would.
That's
Several music
about
videos. It felt like just boss fights in Mortal Kombat. Like, you just go to a weird location and have an obscure fight with someone, and then the next one, and there was
And
some
it
plot.
didn't work.
No,
It just
at
flat
all.
out didn't work, and it put half the audience to sleep. Whereas Parasite totally did.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
freaking
And
worked.
I'd like to. Maybe it had to do with a little bit of cultural difference, or at least just a difference in storytelling from culture to culture, which I would love to know more about. But yeah, this one did not fall flat in that way. Like, it was entirely approachable from, I would say, really every audience.
You know what I'm really thinking about during this is the two biggest Korean IPs, if we want to call them that I can think of at least, are Squid Game and Parasite. Those are the two biggest that I can think of, and both basically start off and move the plot from being extremely poor, falling into poverty, having a ton of debt. I just don't know Korean politics or how the culture is. Is that a huge problem right now? Like, is Squid Game and Parasite exaggerating the way that people live, or is that pretty truthful with just a Hollywood lens on top of it?
I don't know. I'm
really
guessing
curious.
if this was, because I mean, it was written by this director too, and he's from South Korea. Maybe there's some inspiration there. I don't know, because that's fair. I mean, you're under the shadow and slightly under the thumb of North Korea, so that's a great point. I have no idea. I've never been there.
Yeah, I wonder if the class divide is that crazy.
It might be.
It'd be really interesting to know.
It might be. Well, and if they have a South Korean film industry that's able to put out hitters like this, maybe there might be a fairly well-off crowd and a lot of slums. Yeah, it's a densely packed place, so potentially.
Yeah. There's also one thing that was kind of funny. So there's this whole thing in Hollywood right now in the last 5-6 years, something like that, where there's been pandering to Chinese audiences. And we've all seen it. It's where all of a sudden there's a random Chinese character. I think Transformers was probably the worst culprit of it, where randomly there's 2 Chinese characters and they're infallible and they're perfect in every single way and their products are the best or whatever, so that it does really good in a Chinese market. Now, I don't think that this is what it was, but it was really interesting to see a flip of that, where this movie had American ties, that it had the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts.
The tents. We bought it in America.
We bought the tent in
I was gonna
America.
mention that. Yeah. Something that I also found really interesting is that the rich wife randomly spoke English at points throughout the movie.
She did.
And
It's like K-pop.
it just happened a lot, more so than I expected.
I feel like it was just her flexing. I mean,
Probably.
granted, most of the time it was to Jessica. It was either to Jessica or sometimes to the mom. But it was never to the guy, to the one actually teaching English.
I think that's a thing in Korea. I'm 99% sure that's just a thing that they do. That there's certain phrases that are understood that people use in English. Sure. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a valid point. I don't know if it was her flex to be.
I just thought it was really interesting. It was a point was made for the end of a sentence or whatever to actually do it a couple times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, but I thought it was really interesting to have that happen, because I'm not going to lie. I was sitting in my chair, and I'm a Boy Scout, and I was like, yeah, damn straight we know Morse code. All right, I like this movie. And I'm like, son of a gun. Is this what happens in China? They get the pandering and they like it? Son of a gun. It was really interesting to see that.
And you could even talk to just the Native American stuff too, to where it is a popular fad there, as it was here in the 60s. To where, you're wearing headdresses as a kid, you're looking up to having tomahawks and things like that. And in this, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was an interesting tie to Western culture and the influence of it.
Yep.
So
I know what they have. They actually have the Cub Scouts over there. I know that for sure. So that, I don't think that the director was pandering per se, but I'm just saying it was really interesting to have a foreign movie have that in it and experience what it would be like to have a movie telling you that your culture is good. It was interesting, haven't experienced that before.
One, I don't know if it speaks to class or not necessarily, but even just the fact that to be in the Cub Scouts or the Boy Scouts would be something that would really only be attainable to the elite in that way. If you're down in the slums, you don't care about joining social clubs. You're just surviving. But in this case, I mean, they can go away on camping trips and they can be gone and have spontaneous parties and, invite people randomly that the son made that point of, do they all act like this normally? They could just show up to this and this is just them normally. And so, yeah, I don't know if it speaks to that necessarily, because I mean, here it's a little different, obviously, but yeah, that only the upper echelons could reach something like the Boy Scouts, could be, be a part of social clubs that don't mean anything to survival in the world, but that are extraneous in a way, that are fun, they're camping weekends, they're that kind of thing. But I don't know, that was just my take on it too. Just be maybe, I don't know, sort of like how the elites gravitate, in movies and things, especially to plays and music and that kind of thing. It's considered more of an elite kind of thing, at least culturally. So yeah, I'd love to know with a little bit of the lens of the area and the actual stuff, just to see if it was inspired by, if it was significant. What?
I think I thought of a plot hole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me know if I'm wrong.
Poke the hole. Go.
So, the only way that he was able to get away, the dad, after he kills the rich guy and all this stuff, he runs away. The only way he's able to get back into the house was because the garage door was open, because the Mini Cooper's hood was sticking out. That's a short car, and we already saw a Range Rover pull out of that same spot, and we know that the Mini Cooper is shorter than the Range Rover.
And the wife said there's enough room in the garage to fit the Mini Coupe.
Why is the Mini Cooper poking out?
Leave it to you to.
I found a plot hole in Parasite.
Well, and the question was, did somebody stop the door on the hood of the Mini Coupe? Because when he slid out of the door, there weren't like sensors to stop the door. It kept closing when they all escaped. Good plot hole. Very nice.
Is that the name of this week's
That's the
episode?
title.
That's the title.
That's the title.
I found a plot hole
I
in
found a
Parasite.
plot hole in Parasite.
Yeah.
If you made it this far, comment Mini Cooper.
You know what you have to do. Do it.
Do it.
Well, I think it's that time. Does anybody else have anything?
I'm good.
Ready for ratings?
All right.
Okay.
So now we're going to go to our rating system. With Garrett here, we'll make the math work. But we're all going to rate this out of 5, combine our scores. We'll give you a total, and we'll post it on our Letterboxd. We are OTW Video on Letterboxd. You can see all of our scores there, including this one. So right now we're going to cut and do some scores, and we'll be back like that. So we just got our scores. Now we're going to go through all of our categories. We're going to discuss them and give you the total score.
All right, Garrett, guest of honor. Uniqueness.
I scored that a 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Or we just give our reasons afterwards.
If you want to. If you
Okay.
don't, no worries.
Yeah, I think in all reality, for all of my the categories, like the reasons why I scored them, I just really like this movie a lot.
That's all right.
Like it's just a really good movie, and it is very unique. And I think to me, like this is like the first. I don't exactly know how to word this, but it's like I don't know, because the story in and of itself is something that I feel like I haven't really, and I think you touched on it with like the rich family, like not being like a typical rich family, and like just the way the regular how are we saying this? Like the regular family comes in and just kind of in a way is taking advantage of them. I don't know. It's just something I really haven't, because again, it's like who do you root for? Like, are you rooting for any of them? It's just it's a whole moral dilemma. So yeah.
Absolutely. Matt, what you got for uniqueness?
It was a 5. I couldn't think of any other movie that was like this. The overarching theme of classes existing, but it didn't say too much about it itself. I've seen that before, but literally everything except for the fact of rich and poor existing in the world, everything was unique. The plot, the cinematography I thought was unique. The acting, all of it. The fact that a whole family was the main character, and that also equates the title being singular. Like, it was all incredibly unique. 5.
Okay.
I'm exact same way. I also gave it a 5 for similar reasons. I was thinking the whole time, how does one arrive at this storyline and write this script? Because same as what you said, I can think of a couple movies that do the class thing a little bit. I mean, the most notable one just being Robin Hood. But usually there's like retaliation and there's like fighting. There's not like con artistry. And that is just such a unique angle to be like, well, we're going to bleed them from the inside. And then to apply that to not just one person, but a whole family, and to do so well in such unique situations and have the follow through be so poetic and tied up nicely. Oh yeah, it was a unique movie. It is a unique movie, and stands up very well even years after it was released. So,
Well, our next one, Mr. Garrett, is cinematography.
I gave that one a 4. I don't really think I thought it was shot beautifully, and I think the like transitions were really nice, but that's more of like an editing thing. There wasn't really enough for me to be like, oh yeah, the cinematography's bad, or like the cinematography's like off the charts. But like again, it wasn't bad, so I just gave it a 4. So that's my
enough.
reasoning.
okay. I thought the cinematography was pretty stellar. I gave it a 5. I guess my main rules are the cinematography. At the end of the day, it shouldn't necessarily be noticed. Like there are plenty of movies where you notice it so much that it's bad. Like we talked a little bit about that with Novocaine on this last week, where there were a lot of like good intentional things happening in the cinematography, but they didn't inform anything. They didn't help anything. And then they ended up hurting it. And so in this way, I didn't think that there was anything that stuck out to the extent that it hurt anything. But the things that did stick out informed the story, which is your next thing for cinematography, is that your goal as a cinematographer is to tell the director's story, ultimately, is to make it visually compelling and actually happen.
Yeah,
and I think that this one,
camera angles, lens choices,
exactly, it was informed
everything.
fully, and through color palette. I mean, doing everything across the board to bring this class struggle to life visually in so many ways that I wouldn't have thought of at all or come close to. It was phenomenal. So I'd give it a 5.
I'm in the same boat. That was a dang 5 right there. I couldn't think of anything that was bad. And that's my first mark when I'm thinking about cinematography.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have your perspective because we come from the world of cameras.
Okay,
This is what we do.
That's kind of
We're
what I'm
paying
saying is that, yeah, and maybe, I mean, usually I feel like I'm really good at like pinpointing like when I really think cinematography is good, and I think I do have a okay eye for it for somebody who doesn't work with
Anybody who
cameras.
watches movies can judge this.
Right. But there wasn't, I don't know, there wasn't anything to me because I feel like, and there's none like off the top of my head that I can name right now, but like the movies that I think the cinematography is amazing, I feel like there's like one particular shot where I can be like, that stands out, where I can be like,
that's a
oh
great
my
leather
God.
stick.
Do you have an example?
I was gonna say, yeah. Are there any
I'd love to
movies
know.
that you're like
I have to go, I again, you're putting me on the spot and I can't.
Batman v Superman?
Interesting that you bring that movie up. But yeah, no, there's nothing I can, like, nothing off the top of my head right now. But for Parasite in general, there's not like a particular shot for me. And maybe, honestly, maybe I just wasn't paying attention as hard as I should have been. But it's not like the cinematography was bad. It's just there wasn't like anything in particular that really like stood out for me.
Flip it on its head. If this movie were shot differently, if it were shot like a standard, just kind of run-of-the-mill drama where it was all shot totally the same, it was just fairly flat, or maybe super edgy. Maybe it was shot almost like Michael Bay, where everything's just like contrast, right? To where there were no like distinct styles even that informed the way you were supposed to feel or anything. Like, do you feel like the visuals in this movie informed feeling in you? Maybe is a better way to think about cinematography. Like, do you feel like it actually propelled the essence of the story more by seeing certain things in certain ways? Because
I mean, I think there were, especially towards like when you really get into the meat and potatoes and like the thick of the movie when all the drama starts to go down, like the way certain scenes were shot, you know, I feel like enhance the way it's, I don't know exactly, it enhanced the drama of it. I don't exactly know how to,
no,
but
good.
like,
I'm just poking a little, so it's all good.
yeah, no, but like, yeah.
Because like a couple shots that come to mind are every time the husband, not every time, but most of the time he came into the house, it was either this kind of tracking shot running parallel to him as he walked up the stairs with him right in the center, or it was him like coming out of the abyss with the lights always, every time, syncing up with the way that he came into the house.
We're talking about the
Rich
Rich
husband.
husband. Okay, yeah, sorry.
That's true, there are two husbands. Or even just little things like most of the shots within the house itself were really symmetrical, were super symmetrical and orderly and clean and tidy. And then when you get to the slums, everything was chaotic and crazy. And like you got the handheld stuff when the place was flooding. And then you got the claustrophobic shots when you go down and into these areas. And so it informed, at least for me, certain senses of the added chaos or the added.
I'm gonna be real with you. I think it's easier for me to pinpoint these things when it's on like an actual movie theater screen.
Okay.
So I don't think I was. I think that kind of immersion like hits harder for me. I'm able to notice those things more when it's on a bigger screen, but that's just for me personally.
Well, hey, when it
movies
gets
are the way.
re-released in 4 years, we'll
Yeah.
go see it.
Movies are the dude. Yeah, theaters are the way to do it. Sorry, I don't mean to poke. I just was curious what your reasoning was.
So on cinematography, the reason that I gave it a 5, because Daniel and I have talked about this. Just being really, really good and getting pretty shots is not enough for a 5 from cinematographers, from people who do stuff with cameras. For me, it has to go beyond that, and it has to be something that is crazy. And I think the number one thing that I can think of that inspires me as a videographer is that lens change and how he did it, going through the gate to show the wonder of entering a completely new world. Now, that is not the shot that sticks out for me. The one that sticks out for me is when the daughter is smoking on the toilet with it flooding.
That was just
I
funny.
will never get that out of my head.
What a shot, man.
It's not the most indicative of the movie itself. It doesn't represent the movie that well, but that's the shot that I won't be able to get out of my head.
Somebody storyboarded that. It's like she's just gonna sit on this toilet that's gurgling out and smoke a cigarette in a flooded room.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why I gave it a 5, because they went beyond it. Yeah.
Okay. Garrett, what do you think on the story itself?
Story was a 5. Story was a 5. Yeah, no, it's again we kind of goes back to the uniqueness that I've never really seen a story like this kind of told before, and then it's gonna go into the execution. I mean, the story was executed insanely well, so it's like, yeah, I don't know, it's just it's incredibly enjoyable from start to finish. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
Fair enough. What you got?
I gave the story a 4.9.
Gosh dang it,
plot
that
hole.
one
That dang
plot hole.
If you got that Mini Cooper figured out, it would have been a 5. But that Mini Cooper was there. In all seriousness, though, everything made sense. Yeah. Everything worked. It all lined itself with what was happening. The rain, a freaking rainstorm, moved the plot forward more than a lot of villains in movies move a plot forward.
Speaking physical words of like, this is my motivation.
Yeah. It was, oh man. And there was also some great like artistic stuff like that. The fact that the rich people are literally higher. We don't actually
Higher on the hill.
Yeah,
not
they're
flooding.
not actually on a mountain or whatever, but the fact that, like you were saying, they have to walk down constantly to get to their
That's a
place.
good
Did you
point.
notice when they were running back to the slums that the camera deliberately panned to the drain?
Yep.
And it was like collecting into the drain and running all down? Yeah.
I also loved the, I'm forgetting the director's name, the guy who loves symmetry, Grand Budapest Hotel. I'm forgetting the director's name right now. That's a sin.
IMDb.
But they had...
Almost there. Sorry.
There was one shot that just reminded me of that so much, and it was when it was that wide of the stairs.
Wes Anderson.
It reminded me of Wes Anderson. It was shot very much like his
Yeah,
style.
there was a lot of Wes Anderson in this.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about today, actually, at our shoot, the downplaying of pans and just generally simple camera moves. And this one utilized it as well. I mean, just
great.
very simple pan motions, very simple, whether it was up or down or if it was, trucking left and right, whatever the case would be. There were a lot of shots in this one. Sorry, maybe this was more in cinematography that lingered on people and let them just do their performance. And every time something changed within that performance that needed to be shown or something, like say it was on the phone, it like pinged up, like you're talking, phone, come back to the performance. Then it looks over here. And it just was this slow, nice camera movement where it wasn't these jumpy cuts all over the place to like make it more edgy. It was very organic and very easy to watch. So sorry, I didn't mean to take your point there.
But to reaffirm the story, so freaking good. It was 4.9. Yeah.
Cool. I'll keep it short. 5, multiple characters, multiple arcs completed well. Like you said, everything worked. So I think it was a really unique, really good story.
The next one, Mr. Garrett, is Execution.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to really elaborate on this point, but I mean, yeah,
It's still a 5, I take it.
It's still a 5. Yeah, I can't see how it was not executed well. So that's my point.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the same boat. My execution was also a 5. They just did it. The lighting, the coloring, the editing, the planning, the story. It was all executed in such a good package. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm in the same boat.
You got
5.
that. Nice.
Yeah, right there.
So I actually gave it a 4.5. I think that generally speaking, it was executed flawlessly, across the board. We talked about a couple like hiccup scenes, but the big one for me was actually the like epilogue ending. I could have seriously gone without that. Where it just was the dad running away and showing his cockroach
that's a good point.
feature.
That's a good point.
I think that it would have been, and then the son not recovering and all of that. I think that it begged a good question. Certainly, the big one being if he gets the chance to rise to money and power, would he do that to then free his dad? But like, I felt like it would have been just as impactful had they had just, he gets bashed over the head with a rock, the dad stabs the guy, he runs into hiding, and the mom is just like there in the grass, like stunned when everyone like runs away from the commotion. I think that would have been better. But that's honestly my only rag on it. I think that they just over-explained a little at the end. That's just me. Okay. Immersion, Garrett, what you got? How immersed were you in this movie?
5. It's also a 5. Yeah, no, I never found myself getting bored throughout this movie. I mean, I was in it the entire way, so it held my attention the entire time. So I was there. I was locked in. So it was great.
Fair enough. What you got, Matt?
For immersion, I was a 4.2. A 4.2. I was immersed, but I don't really know how to describe it. I wasn't checking my watch by any stretch.
So that's something that we use as a metric for immersion, is if we're checking our watch like all the time, then we're out of it.
Yeah. Okay. If a movie's like, oh my God, how long is this taking? Yeah. Instant points off.
I'll say that about like the ending sequence. Like once it got to like,
watch, you're like,
well, like
there's more.
I was like, how much left of there is this movie? I knew we were nearing the end, but it was definitely like, damn, like because I alluded to earlier, like I forgot that ending sequence even like really occurred or even happened. So I was like, oh, well, and then it just kind of kept going and going and going, and I was like, okay, well,
guess we're still here.
Yeah, guess we're still here. Yeah. But it was, fine.
Yeah. So for me, 4.2. I don't really have a good reason. That just feels like the right score to me. I think, I don't know. It was an interesting day today, so that's probably playing into it. But that's probably it. At 4.2, I think is fair. It was absolutely immersive. That's why I got a 4.2. But I wasn't like, oh, I'm in this. I'm feeling every moment and every beat and everything. So 4.2.
Okay.
Fair enough. I gave it a little lower, actually. I gave it a 4. And it's not entirely fair to the movie, to be honest, but the nature of subtitle movies for me, I'm just a slow reader. And so I have a hard time keeping up with subtitle movies, so I struggle a little bit through them. That's just always been a thing for me. So that's why, like, when people turn on subtitles for English things, I get it if, like, you can't understand them, but I am so distracted also by subtitles that same as what you were saying, that this one is such a cinematography-heavy movie that you find yourself, like, doing this all the time. Like, this is pretty, but, like, Yeah. So that's honestly the only reason, and that's, I don't know, maybe that's not fair, but that's what I'll give it. So, okay, emotional connection.
I had a 3.
Okay.
Oh, I was not expecting that. Straight up, I was not expecting that at all. I figured that was going to be like a 4 or 5 for you.
No, yeah, no. And I'm thinking about it from like the characters' perspectives, I think. Like I wasn't like, the characters are fun, don't get me wrong, but I didn't feel like emotionally attached to them because what they're doing at the end of the day, while it's for their own success and they're doing, what they can to get by and make ends meet, like I can't really get on with that. Like I can't align with that personally. So it's like, it goes back to like, I'm not necessarily rooting for them per se, but it's like, they're the main characters of the story at the end of the day. So, yeah, so I gave it a 3 because it's like you want to see where they go, and it's like, but it didn't like really evoke, nothing really about it like evoked like a lot of emotion out of me other than like, certain points in the movie where it's like, oh my gosh, this is like really getting really freaky. What the heck's going on? But yeah, that's it.
What you got?
My emotional connection was also a 3. I was in the exact same boat. I think that was a perfect way of describing it. Was that there's no real person that you're really tied to. There's no like overcoming these amazing things because they're scamming people to do it. So yeah, the emotional connection was good because I was entertained and because there were good jokes and they hit the little bit of horror here and there. Not like scary or anything, but it was just like the ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. So yeah, emotional connection was a 3. I felt things, but it didn't go further than that.
Yeah, for sure.
I gave it a little bit higher. I gave it a 4. This movie kind of fell into the unique camp of movies that make you feel gross. And so, like, I don't know why Catch Me If You Can comes up, where it's a movie about conning, and you're following the con artist, essentially, and you're kind of rooting for him, but you only are because you kind of want to see where it plays out.
Yeah.
But you know he's doing wrong things, and so it's eliciting this emotion, at least within me, where it's like this is just gross. And I think for a movie to do that well is hard, because there's a lot of movies, body horror movies and things that just they make you feel gross because they're gross. But a movie that makes you feel morally gross and a little bit like morally bankrupt for not having watched it, but like you experience this journey with these people, and you're like, this was bad, I think, and you kind of ride that line. For me, that's a pretty hard emotional connection to elicit. Not that I was like loving the people or hating the people, but that for a movie to make you feel gross, I think is kind of hard, like emotionally gross. And I think that was maybe the response meant to be elicited, and I think in that way it was successful. So, all right, totals time.
Yep. So now it's time for our scores. Parasite, we have given you some notes, and your final score out of 5 is 4.5322, repeating. You get a 4.5 stars. A very good movie.
I'm very curious. Where does that rank so far on the podcast?
Dude, we've been in the pits for the last couple weeks. We had Snow White, we had Mickey 17.
Yeah, this is up by Apollo 13.
This is, I think Apollo 13 and Social Network are the only two that we've ranked anywhere near this.
Really? Is this the highest one potentially?
We'll have to look at them. I think
we don't have any
one was
5 stars
higher.
yet.
Yeah, there was one that was higher by like point 10.
I think Apollo was a 5-star.
Yeah.
Okay.
Might have been.
It might have been.
Wow.
Because we just love that movie.
Yeah, good movie.
So it's hard to grade, but yeah, it's definitely higher than the last couple of weeks.
Well,
Snow White being half a star.
Get something on here that's more on the upper end of the scale.
And have you on here.
Thank you. No, thanks for having me, guys.
This
It means a
great,
lot.
man.
Appreciate it. No, it's great.
It's good to have extra input and get us out of our own opinions sometimes, get them challenged a little. So
Yeah, especially from a professional voice actor who brings a new perspective. That
thank you.
seriously is something that's awesome, and we're very happy that you were able to come.
No, thanks for having me, guys. Really means a lot. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for watching. If you have a movie that you'd like us to watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below. We do this every single week. Our episodes come out on Friday, and we'll see you next time.
Congrats.